Welcome back. Now, motor neuron disease is a condition that attacks the nerves in the brain and the spinal cord, meaning that messages gradually stop reaching the muscles. This month, the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association is encouraging people to give up their voice for a minimum of 30 minutes to experience what life is like with MND.
Joining us now is Paul Lennon, who currently lives with motor neuron disease alongside his wife Sandra Fox and nurse specialist Katie Kinsella. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, one and all.
Thank you for joining us. I believe this guy's a bit of a messer, so I better be on my toes. Paul, let me come to you first, if you're comfortable enough to have a chat about everything.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your diagnosis.
It's what, 7 years ago now?
Okay.
I was, I had a good job, travelled the world, everything was on the up as such, and I was doing circuit training. The coach said, something not right with you, I think you should go see a doctor. I was having trouble doing push-ups, and I used to be quite a big guy, like.
Because you played hurling, like you
you
were a
playing
fit
hurling,
man.
minor. So I had got a bit out of shape. I was getting back in shape, but I was struggling like 2 push-ups, and that was it. So I went to a doctor, sent me on for nerve tests, and in May of 2011, I was told, unfortunately, you've got early stages of motor neuron disease. I didn't even know what it was. I asked Dr. Hardiman, what does that mean? And she said, I can guarantee you 12 months. After that, it's a bonus, And we kind of, Sandra and myself were kind of around, what do you mean 12 months? That's the mortality, 3 to 5 years is, the usual. And we were like, oh my God. And we came out of there, out of Beaumont, in just complete blur. Don't even remember driving home. Of course, did the usual, Googled it, and worst thing I could have done.
Of course.
Yeah.
But we had lots of tears and, anger and frustration and why me. But after a while, it kind of very much a case of, I can't do anything about it. They told me I had 12 months to live, coming out of there. But that was, their guess. So I kind of said to myself, I just got on with living with motor neuron rather than dying from it.
How many years ago was the diagnosis?
7.
7 years ago.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky, touch wood.
And Sandra, it's a horrendous story, the story of that moment in Beaumont Hospital when you're given that news.
Yeah.
And Paul was saying you barely remember driving home. What was the next...
sometimes that's not a bad thing, the way Paul used to drive.
Right, OK. But what was that next couple of months like? As you said, the worst thing you could do is Google it.
Yeah, well, we had a family friend that had it, so I knew what it was about, but Paul hadn't got a clue. So I was trying to stress home the point of this is what you're dealing with, and he didn't really want to know for the first little while. But
it's very hard to accept, I'm sure, in the early stages.
Yeah, shocking hard. Now, I have to say, Paul was a lot more accepting of it than I was initially, And I remember there was one morning... Sorry.
You're okay.
Right, that's okay.
You're okay. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And you're so brave to be here talking about it this morning.
But there was one morning, maybe 7, 8 months into it, where I was shaving him, which is always risky anyway. But I said, he was standing with this silly grin on his face, kind of like that one there. And I remember saying to him, what are you grinning at? And he was like, nothing, why, I'm happy. I said, how can you be happy? And he said, but sure, there's nothing I can do about it. So what's the point? I can't change it. I just have to get on with it. And do you know what?
But that
was the case where it switched,
But they often say, Sandra, it's the people around the person who we would tend not to forget about, but we forget about how hard an impact it is. Because you have to not stand by and watch this happening, but you can do nothing about it.
Well, you do, really. Yeah, you do, yeah.
Katie, you're a motor neuron disease nurse. Tell us a little bit about the disease itself. What is it, and what does it attack specifically?
So it's a progressive neurological condition that leads to the nerves, the neurons, sending messages to the muscles. They fail to work, basically, leading to muscle wastage. and can start with, little like Paul explained there, he had difficulty doing push-ups. So it could be a weak limb or a slurring of speech. That's basically usually where it starts, something like that. Sometimes breathing problems. So the messages that are going from the neurons that feed the muscles, the message gets lost somewhere along the way, leaving the muscle to waste.
But is it a case that the symptoms don't arrive in a certain order? They never do. It's different from case to case. They can be,
That's true.
you start with this first and then you'll get this.
That's true.
So there's no way of tracking that.
No, and that's why, you know, most neurologists or most consultants or doctors try avoid Dr. Google if you can, because no two cases will be the same. I mean, there'll be commonalities, but that's all they will be. So usually either starts in a limb or with perhaps speech, rarely with breathing difficulties. But no two patterns will follow the same, and no two people with it will follow the same. So it's not good to look around, to look to other people. You know, try stay inward. And
so tell us then the difference that having the association in your life made in terms of having a nurse come to the house and help, Paul. Tell us.
I can't express how valuable it is to have the association. You know, we all hear every week about the shortages in the HSC.
Yeah.
So with M&D, you don't have time to wait for bureaucracy and red tape.
You've got to get on with it.
Yeah, so you pick up the phone, you know, 1-800-433, it's imprinted in my brain.
Yeah.
You ring them and they will do everything in their power. Like I went through counselling, which they have, the nurses come out, you know, keep us connected with the OTs and the physios and that. And then when you need equipment, like my legs are not too bad still. I can walk, but they're getting weaker. So somewhere down the line, there will be a wheelchair involved. That's exactly who I'll ring to get that wheelchair.
At the moment, you use kind of a stroller type?
No, I'm
you
lucky,
don't?
thank God.
You're fine, you don't need that?
Yeah, they get weak. But they're still strong enough to carry me around. You know?
So
I wouldn't walk very far.
I think you're kind of different. Would it be fair to say Paul is not your typical case at all? Not that there is a typical case, but he really defies it in terms of how fit he is, how healthy he looks, how clear his speech is.
I mean, definitely, Paul outlined the timeframes that are there in the 3/4% of the cases. Like 75-80% of people, 2 to 5 years is an accurate timeline, unfortunately, in this illness. So Paul, thank God, is here and fighting fit. Well, you're quite strong, aren't you, really?
Yeah, by comparison to most.
And tell us a little bit about the campaign, Paul and Katie, maybe, that the association are running. They're encouraging people to stay quiet for 30 minutes. So when is the campaign running and what are you hoping to get across in the message? So
the month of February is a sponsored silence campaign because the majority of people with motor neuron at some stage their voice will be affected. So the campaign really is to lose your voice for a time frame up to 30 minutes and get sponsored for that. So we can mimic or we can get a sense of what it's like for someone with motor neuron. Our association is 82% of the funds are from fundraising and from donations. So it's really vital that, you know, we continue that and bring it in so the services can exist. There's 3 nurses, myself, Ethna and Fidelma, that cover the country, and then big equipment bank and things like that everybody accesses, everybody that's a client or a part of the association can access without medical card, without waiting list.
And we'll pop
such a clever idea, though, isn't it? Rather than just looking for donations, it gives people a sense,
window into
a tiny little moment, a window, as you say, Simon, to your life and how difficult it is.
Like my speech is affected in the fact that half of my tongue doesn't move,
doesn't work.
So I can talk reasonably well, but it will get worse.
And you're pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to change the way you know.
To retrain yourself.
Yeah, you kind of have to speak slower.
And you wanted to talk specifically, Paul, about something that the nurses do in terms of the home visits.
Yeah, well, the difference for me, like where I am and they come into it, they provide services. You know, like I have a carer come in and beforehand my arms don't work, so I'm not able to perform the usual. So like even simple things like showers, I have to get a carer to come in, behind me a little banana hammock into the shower. And
put on your banana hammock and away you go.
And they shower me. I can't lift my arms to wash my hair. So
oh Lord!
That's where
You know something?
all these
You know
services.
something? It is a word I never expected to hear today, particularly not in this context. But you know what? I think that explains you to say you've got a great personality. It's shining through, Paul. You have to be positive, and you clearly are. And you're bringing Sandra with you along.
Exactly.
So listen, we'll pop all the details of the campaign up on our Facebook page, and you're as mad as a brush.
This is a case of the strong woman behind the great man, I think.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be half as good today if it
Without
wasn't for
Sandra. Well, you've taken us on an emotional journey.
Yeah,
You've taken me from tears to laughter. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in, guys, and the best of luck.
Thanks so much.
That's more still to come. Stay with us. See you in a few minutes.